Hi, welcome to Movie Review Mom. I'm the mom and I do the reviews. If you're new here, a very special welcome to you. I know we've got some new subscribers lately, and I'm so thrilled and really appreciate your support. I hope you like what you see and I hope you stay. My goal here at Movie Review Mom is to give you the scoop on movies in terms of film content and quality so that you can make the best decision for yourself, whether or not you want to spend your time or money or both watching a particular film. So today, that particular film that I'm reviewing is Outside the Wire. This movie is now available on Netflix. It's rated R. It's an hour and 54 minutes. And the movie review mom grade I'm giving it is a C. And I'll tell you why. I'm going to give you an overview in a nutshell. I'll point out some things I liked and didn't like, as well as offer tips for parents, some recommendations for other movies that I think you might also like, and even some themes that are worth talking about if you want to continue the conversation. So, first, in a nutshell, directed by Michael Hafstrom, this Netflix original action flick has actually been receiving a lot of hate from reviewers. And I actually liked it. And I think all of the critics are being overly harsh. We're all so spoiled by amazing special effects and sophisticated action sequences. So I agree that this movie is not going to win any awards. And it's one that we've seen many times before, but I was still entertained. It blends war of sorts with science fiction, action, and drama. Netflix describes the movie as taking place in the near future when a drone pilot sent into a war zone finds himself paired with a top secret android officer on a mission to stop a nuclear attack. I know it sounds super far-fetched, but that was kind of fun, a fun aspect of it, right? Let me give you some quick tips for parents because your kids may stumble across this on Netflix. It's really rated R for some very good reasons. First of all, there's a lot of profanity and about a zillion F bombs because I counted them. So I'm just giving you the heads up there. There's also lots of violence and destruction and a very high body count with tons of brutal deaths and bloody, dead, gory bodies laying around and dying and that kind of thing. Just so you don't really want your kids to be exposed to any of that. Now, for themes, the themes that are introduced in the movie are trust, humanity, American meddling abroad in international relations. And I thought that was interesting. And then what is the greater good? So let me tell you some things that I really liked about the movie. First of all, I really liked the lead actor, Anthony Mackie. I thought he was fantastic in the movie, and especially with his stunt work. He's got a very physical, demanding role in this movie. He was entirely believable. I liked him. I thought he did a great job. And because we all loved him in the Avenger movies, there are some fun winks to his character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. For example, sometimes he's called Cap, and he also says, I can do this all day, which is a nod to Captain America in the MCU. So I thought that was cute. I liked that because we all liked his character in the movies. Now, I actually know a guy who worked on an air base near where I live, who went to the office every day and controlled drones on the other side of the world. So I thought that that element of the movie was really interesting. And I really loved the idea of taking a soldier from that kind of an office environment and then putting him into the front lines to see what it really felt like to be on that end of the drones, so to speak. So I expected to feel all the feels as he learned to value human life in a different way. Now, the good news is that you get a little bit of that. The bad news is not as much as you're hoping for. But I'll talk about that in just a minute. There are a few moments of humor in Act One, which is great. It balances out all the nonstop action and drama, but it really kind of peters out in Acts Two and Three. And I would have loved to have had more humor, again, just to kind of add some balance. And speaking of action, some of the action sequences and choreography I thought were really great. I've seen other reviewers say, oh, nothing new we haven't seen before, but there were a few little stunts and moments that I was like, whoa, that was actually pretty cool. There's this one moment where a female doesn't have any weapons and she gets like a coat or piece of fabric or whatever, and she's doing all this stuff with fabric, and I'm like, whoa, I got to remember that one. I got to learn that skill. So I liked it. And there is a lot of action. So if you're looking for a deep drama, you're probably going to be disappointed. If you're looking for just lots of action and explosions and stuff, then you'll be entertained. And there are some twists. I love twists in the movie. Some of the scenes were shot at the Kellenfold Power Station, which is a famous location that was also used to shoot the movie, The Chernobyl Diaries, if you saw that or liked that at all. So some of it'll look familiar. It's supposed to take place in Ukraine, the whole movie setting. Some of the special effects are really good, I thought. Others, not so much. But some that I really liked was the design of the droids and how they interacted with the world around them and with the humans around them. I liked how they looked and thought that they were pretty cool. And there was humor in that element of the movie as well. I always like it when a movie title can be interpreted in several different ways. So think about the title and see what you can come up with. I came up with about 3 different things. I think the trailer is done really well. It makes the movie look really good. Some viewers are saying that the trailer is better than the movie. I disagree. Come on. I think everybody's being really hard on this movie for some reason. It's not a masterpiece. I've already said that. But again, for just some dumb fun, if you're into action and that kind of stuff, the very first scene, in fact, speaking of the action, looked like something straight out of a video game. And I wondered if the entire movie was going to be like that, in which case I thought, well, it's not my preferred style, but, kids who are into video games will think it's really cool. Well, the good news is the whole movie is not like that. So if that bothers you, then don't let it bother you because it only happens in the very opening scene. Now, there were some things that I didn't like, obviously, about the movie. First of all, the storyline is pretty ridiculous. The script is pretty weak, and it's extremely predictable. So there's that. Now, what I referred to earlier is the problem with making a movie that features 2 main characters who don't show emotion is that the audience also detaches on an emotional level. And you kind of find yourself really not caring too much about the characters, whether they live or die. So that's not good. So speaking about the drones, I was just wondering what the purpose was of having a robot dog other than it looking really cool. It didn't do anything in the movie other than walk by and make me laugh like, oh, look, drone dog. There is a lot of exposition in the movie where people are explaining everything that's happening, why it's happening, what's going to happen. And, exposition generally is not a good thing in movies, especially if it's an action movie. People just want to get on with the action, but they try to explain the plot, and the plot is just sort of silly. One thing that I thought was interesting is that as I do research and read reviews of other people, there have been a lot of negative anti-American comments in the reviews, like, oh, just another American movie about how Americans saved the world and how Americans are meddling in all of every other country's events. I just thought that that was so interesting. I mean, as an American, I'm watching it through an American's eyes, obviously. Now, here's a really small thing that just kind of bugged me. There are several scenes where a soldier has just like a bunch of stuff in his teeth, and I just found it to be super distracting. I mean, it's war, so it's not like he could have time to go brush his teeth in between action sequences. But it was realistic, but just super distracting. I'm like, are those permanent stains, or did I not notice those before, or when's he going to brush his teeth? There is so much shooting and destruction and killing that it becomes mind numbing, really. And maybe that's why I was getting distracted by these other little things. I'm like, yeah, shoot, kill, explode, and then I'm like, wait, there's something new and different. Something's in his teeth. We don't get a lot of character development in the story. And that's one thing that I would have wished had been changed so that we could have felt more growth on an emotional level with these characters. Some of the action scenes are a bit choppy because of so many camera jumps and edits. Some of the editing is very noticeable and not good. And the inconsistent pacing of the movie makes the movie feel a lot longer than it is. I mean, it is long, but even still, I'm like, wow, they're still killing people. So I think a good 20 minutes could have been cut out to make the movie a little tighter and more palatable, maybe even. And then finally, the villains just don't feel threatening enough. Now, I always write down funny lines and interesting lines while I write movies, and I include them in my written reviews at moviereviewmom.com. So you can check all of those out there. But I'll share a couple of them with you right now. One of them is spoken by Leo, who's played by Anthony Mackie. He's kind of this advanced android humanoid robotic man with all these powers kind of a thing. Somebody says something to him and he says, "I'm not an idiot. That would make me human." And then another character who's the other leading character in the movie is Harp, played by Damson Idris. And he says, "Human beings can learn to do better." And I liked the interplay between this robot who was learning to be human and this man who was sort of acting robotic to become more human, to appreciate humanity. I thought both actors did a really good job. I thought that they were equally matched, and I really enjoyed their banter and the things that they learned from each other. So again, I enjoyed this movie, I think, a lot more than a lot of people did. Anyway, before we go, let me give you a couple of recommendations for other movies that I think you might like if you liked this movie. First of all, the obvious recommendation is The Terminator, a robotic humanoid guy who has incredible powers and strength and yet is beginning to understand the value of humanity. And then another movie that people have been likening this movie to is Training Day, so with Denzel Washington. So you could check that one out. All right. And be sure and check out the links down below in the description, as well as some other links. For example, I've got one that gives you a free 7-day trial on Amazon Prime, in case you have always wondered about that one. Okay, so I hope that you do enjoy this movie if you watch it. Thank you so much for subscribing, sticking around to the end of the video. Thank you also to those who are going over to Patreon to support me there. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I will catch you in the next movie review. Bye for now.